All right, so Cuban heavyweight Frank Sanchez is obviously very frustrated. There's a long waiting list for title shots right now, and so he wants to fight some of the other contenders. They don't seem willing to fight him, according to him. So I'm going to quote Frank Sanchez here. He said, "It will be a year before Tyson Fury and Usyk have 2 fights, and this is too long to wait for a championship fight. So the next best thing would be Deontay Wilder. Jared Anderson will not fight me. I asked the WBO to make a fight against Anderson, but I am told at the convention that the WBO president, Paco Varcel, asked Top Rank at the ratings meeting if they would allow number 2 Anderson to fight number 3 me, and Top Rank said no. This leaves Deontay Wilder. I understand that Andy Ruiz is asking for ridiculous money, so forget him. I will be reasonable with money because I know I will win against Wilder." Okay, those are the words of Frank Sanchez, the Cuban Flash. Now, I wasn't aware of Jared Anderson not wanting to fight Frank Sanchez, but I'm not surprised, given how Jared Anderson looked against Charles Martin, for example. Having said that, the Cuban Flash, Frank Sanchez, didn't look great in his last fight either. He fought a couple weeks ago on the Canelo undercard, and he got badly hurt in the first round against some journeyman. He was only a small journeyman at that. And look, it can happen. Tyson Fury got put down by Nevin Pikage. He's not a great fighter, is he? He got put down by Steve Cunningham. So I'm not writing Frank Sanchez off just because he got hurt by some small journeyman in the first round in his last fight, because he's got the skills to get away from much bigger punches than that. Efe Ajagba, much bigger puncher, much better fighter than the guy that Frank Sanchez just fought, and Sanchez beat Efe Ajagba. So, that is what that is. But what we do know from that fight is that Frank Sanchez don't have an iron jaw. That little guy's hurting you, making you do the stanky leg. You don't have a Filip Hrgovic chin. You don't have a Mariusz Wach chin. You're vulnerable to some extent, as most heavyweights are. So that should entice fighters to want to come and fight Frank Sanchez. But there's probably going to need to be some kind of eliminator in play. Either a ranking match to get into a higher position than Frank Sanchez is already in, or a final eliminator. And if you incentivize these contenders with eliminators, they're going to take the fights because there's actually light at the end of the tunnel. There's something in it for them because they're not going to make much money from these fights. If Frank Sanchez fights another top contender, he's not going to make much money. The other guy's not going to make much money, relatively speaking. So they want to be rewarded by at least getting a title shot out of it or a higher ranking out of it. That's a reasonable thing to expect. That's a reasonable thing to want for taking that kind of risk. Okay, so Frank Sanchez says, tried to fight Jared Anderson. Anderson didn't want to smoke. Not surprised by that. So he's looking at Deontay Wilder instead. Wilder's not going to fight Frank Sanchez. Let's be real. Wilder's looking at either Anthony Joshua, and if worse comes to worse, they'll fight Andy Ruiz. He ain't going to fight Frank Sanchez. So the sanctioning bodies need to order an eliminator between Sanchez and one of the higher ranked contenders. Yeah, and I think it should be Frank Sanchez versus Arslanbek Makhmudov with the WBC. Make that an eliminator, not just an eliminator, make it a final eliminator, because you've got the likes of Andy Ruiz, you've got the likes of Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua who can't seem to fight each other. And since those guys can't get it together and fight each other, the WBC needs to do the right thing, do the normal thing, right? Go past those guys, make all those positions vacant even if you want, and make the final eliminator between 2 guys who are willing to fight each other. And that would be, I'm sure, Frank Sanchez, he's up for it, and Arslanbek Makhmudov. Make a final eliminator between those 2. The winner gets a guaranteed shot at either Tyson Fury or Alexander Usyk, whoever holds the WBC belt next year. So that's my take on it. The Cuban Flash, Frank Sanchez, wants all the smoke. Let him have the smoke. Don't allow this guy to have the best years of his career wasted because of boxing politics. Let's keep the conveyor belt moving. Get these eliminators happening. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below.